passing by. At night time, this will be a meeting point for young people. They will meet here to go to clubs in the surroundings or just to spend maybe an hour, 2 hours here with their friends. All it takes sometimes is a guitar and a bottle of rum to have a good time. Some of them during daytime, you'll see people will come to fish. You might see a few fishermen. You'll see some people as well in the summer season, July and August. They come for a swim. They have to be a good swimmer because the water here is deep. It's not like there's a beach here, but anyways, if you're a good swimmer, you can escape the heat by taking a swim over here. You'll see lots of renovation works as well over here. The purpose of this wall is to protect the city from the battering waves. Today the ocean is calm, but in the winter season with the cold fronts or in the summer season with the tropical storms, you get huge waves that will hit the wall and will flood this avenue, forcing us to close it from time to time. Well, before we go on talking about El Malecón, see this tall building on the left hand side, the Almejiras Hospital. Dating from the 50s, it was built to house a bank and turned into a hospital. That's one of Cuba's best hospitals. Healthcare in Cuba, by the way, is free of charge as well. You don't need insurance. If you're sick, just go straight to the doctor's office and you won't be charged for that. What we pay for are the over-the-counter medications. So if you need to take antibiotics, for instance, then you do get a prescription from your doctor and you buy that at the pharmacy. Then you will find, if you need ear surgery, even heart surgery, brain surgery, those will be covered by the government. And dental care will also be covered by the government. So then, over here in this area, this district we're just leaving behind is known as Central Havana district. This avenue on the left hand side is known as Calle 23. 23rd Avenue is one of the town's main arteries, and is the borderline then between Central Havana district and El Vedado. See this building on top of a hill on the left hand side? That's the famous National Hotel. It opened its doors on December 1930, and it was one of American Mafia's favorite hangouts in Havana City. Mayor Lansky, Lucky Luciano, Santa Traficante, Anastasia used to hang out there at the international gambling parlor. It has always been as well the place where celebrities stay in Havana. Walt Disney stayed there, Fred there. Frank Sinatra actually came to spend honeymoon here at this hotel with his wife Ava Gardner when he married Ava Gardner. And then Steven Spielberg, Peter Coyote, Johnny Depp, Natalie Portman, Kate Moss, Sean Penn, Danny Glover, Pierce Brosnan. All of them have stayed here at the National. Over here then you're going to find this building with the glass windows on the left. That's the American Embassy. It used to be the interest office. Then it was reopened as an embassy when Obama visited Havana and renewed relationships with Cuba. But that was to the very end of his second term. And Trump became the president of the United States a little after, and then again he closed down the embassy. Now if you're local, if you're a Cuban, you want to visit the States, then you have to apply through a third country, which means you have to do all of the paperwork through Mexico or the Jamaica or the Panama, wherever you want to go. But you have to apply to get a visa to that place to then apply at the American Embassy of that country for an American visa. So it's making things very difficult for Cubans with family in the States and for those who would like to visit their relatives or have them visit them in the States. But that's life. It's complicated. So then, this is El Vedado district. It was developed back in the 1930s and 40s. It was a place meant for the upper classes. The upper classes started to move westward back in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and this is where they came to live when they left behind their old palaces. They built very nice houses here, mansions, apartment buildings, hotels, clubs, restaurants. But everything was really expensive here, so it was actually the working class who started to call the district El Vedado, which translated into English means off limits, because it was actually off limits for the working class. They couldn't afford a place here, they couldn't even afford a meal at one of the restaurants in this district. Well, as we turn here on the right, you're going to find a dome that used to be a gambling parlor, and the hotel right behind it used to be owned by Meyer Lansky, the Jewish mob chief. The Riviera Hotel that opened its doors in 1957. Straight ahead, this tall brown building is the Melia Cohiba Hotel, built in the 90s then, when the tourist boom began, the joint venture with the Sol Melia Company from Spain. On the left-hand side, the glass structure over there, that's the Galerías Paseo shopping center. We don't have a big malls you have at home, so ours are smaller, more like this place you can see over here. And you'll see variety sometimes when you shop around. It's very limited. That's our main issue, because with embargo it's very difficult for Cuba to get all kinds of supplies. Well, then this avenue will lead us straight to one of the city's landmarks, the Revolution Square. This place was built in the 1950s, before revolution came to power, not after, just before, a little before. They were transferring then the seat of government from central Havana district to this new area. They built a tower to house a museum devoted to our national hero, Jose Marti. And that's the statue you're going to find at the square. Jose Marti was a Cuban philosopher, lawyer, journalist, poet, patriot, and politician. He was a very clever politician. He was the one who founded Cuba's first revolutionary party in 1892. And he was the one who started Cuba's second revolution in 1895. But then he was a warrior, so he was killed in one of the first battles of that second independence war in Cuba. Once on the square, you will see like an empty place resembling a parking lot. That's the square. That's where that's been the scenery of those very long and empty speeches delivered by Fidel Castro in the 60s and the 70s, in the 80s. That's been the scenery of masses that took place there when popes like John Paul II visited Havana. The place where concerts have been taking place as well, though that wasn't the venue where the Rolling Stones played, because that place was still small for them. The concert was huge, it was massive, and they needed a bigger place, so they played like 5 to 10 kilometers away from this area over here, at a very big place. So then, by this square, you're going to find a tall tower housing the museum for a national hero, and that's the statue you're going to find there. Right behind that tower, you will find the Central Committee building, which is the seat of government these days. That's the place where the president works. And arranged by the square, you'll find the ministries. Around the square, you'll find the Ministry of Communications, the Ministry of the Army, the Ministry of Internal Affairs. There will be 2 buildings with the outlines of 2 faces. One face you will recognize right away, that will be the face of Che Guevara. The other face you won't be able to recognize right away will be the face of Camilo Cienfuegos. Camilo Cienfuegos was born here in Havana. He participated in the guerrilla wars in the 1950s. He was a commander of the Cuban guerrilla army, and he died on a plane crash on October 1959, the very same year revolution came to power. The other face, the face of Che Guevara, you see everywhere in Cuba. Though he was a local, he was Argentinian, Che Guevara. His real name was Ernesto Guevara de la Serna. He was born in Argentina, in Rosario province, Argentina, and he belonged to a middle-class family, so he could afford to attend the Buenos Aires Medical College. A few months before he graduated, he went on a trip. It all started as an adventure, and there's actually a film telling you about it. It's called The Motorbike Diaries. He went on a trip with a sidecar in a bike with a sidecar with one of his best friends, Alberto Granados. And it all started as an adventure, but very soon they realized that people were so poor at America's countryside that they couldn't afford medical assistance, and as they were about to become doctors, they started to stop here and there to help them. That's the time his life mission became fighting to improve the living standards of those poor people. He went back to school, he graduated as a doctor, and then he started to travel. He went to Guatemala and later to Mexico, where he met the Cuban revolutionaries that were in exile after the attack to Garrizo in eastern Cuba. So they went to prison 2 years after they were released under government amnesty, and they were in exile in Mexico at the time. Che was visiting, Ernesto was visiting Mexico, and that's where they met. He joined the Cuban rebel group as a doctor